he would feel like sometimes I'm emasculating him by the way I'm talking to him. I grew up in a home where people got divorced and the women were strong and single parenthood was like normal. I mean, I'm a doctor, you're a doctor, why can't we be
good?
We're gonna be good.
Right.
Right? But he didn't think that was gonna be okay, the way we fought. There were no boundaries. And it wasn't that we were calling names and things like that. Sometimes it's a little bit more vicious, right? It's saying, like, I didn't produce, because that's what he knew that would hurt me. For me, I was saying that he is not like nurturing and he's not kind and he doesn't look out for me. He ain't got my back, he's not a protector. And those are the things I knew would hurt him.
Wow.
And we had to learn how to stop doing that. You know, this moment.
I can tell you still get emotional about it.
Yeah, but I didn't think, I thought it was fair. I'm mad. I can say whatever, you know, you said something to hurt my feelings, I get to hurt your feelings right back. And it got to be such a toxic environment. It was like, you don't even get to use words to me. Don't talk to me. Unless it has something to do with the kids, don't talk to me.
I am Rashan Ali, everybody's homegirl, everybody's favorite soror, the Cool Soror, representing the ATL and the east side of Decatur. What's happening?
5, 4, 3.
Okay, here we go. It's the Cool Soror podcast, hosted by me, Rashan Ali.
Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of the Cool Soror podcast. I am so happy that you have decided to click on or listen to this amazing show, because that is what we do. We speak to women in Black Greek letter organizations and men too. So we do have the cool bras definitely for this season. And I'm so very happy to have the one and only Dr. Contessa Metcalfe, who is a Cool Soror of
Delta Sigma Theta.
Yeah.
Gamma Alpha, Fall 95, baby.
Yes. How are you doing?
I am freaking fantastic.
Yes.
I feel great.
And you look freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to have you a part of the show. We got a chance to see each other in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, I came to you guys'
I know.
bowl game. That was spectacular.
It was.
Yeah, Xavier didn't have a football team. I went to Xavier.
Yeah.
Xavier, New Orleans.
Xavier,
you
New
know what I'm
Orleans.
saying?
But you're not from Xavier. You're not from New Orleans.
I'm from Kansas City.
Right.
Home of the Chiefs. So
Yeah.
that's why people are like sometimes, why you got the Chiefs stuff on? Because I'm from Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yes. But it was just so much fun. I love that. I wish we had some dancing girls and a band and all that kind of stuff. We didn't have none of that stuff.
None of that stuff.
I just always, I come support the family.
Yes.
I love
But
fam.
it's the HBCU experience for me.
It really is. It
Absolutely.
really is.
What made you choose Xavier from Kansas City?
So Xavier, I think it still is the fact, but it was number one in placing African Americans in med school. And I was pre-med. And so I actually really was interested in going to Spelman.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about the whole, like, where were you accepted to and where'd you get a scholarship to a little bit before we started.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go to Spelman at first. My whole life, Spelman. I got accepted. Was like a presidential scholarship, but it didn't include room and board, right?
Oh.
And my mother was a big time like, you're not going to Spelman. You're going to University of Missouri, where you got a full ride to, we had what was called a joint scholarship
Yeah.
to medical and undergrad. And my mom was like, you're going there. You going to UMKC or you going to MU? I said, lies. I'm going to where I want to go. And so she called Spelman and said, you can give her scholarship away. She's not going there.
What?
And so I tell you the truth, this girl named, I was in debate and forensics, this girl named Minette, she barely, like Minnie Mouse, she actually barely spoke. And so Minette, thank you so much, because she walked up to me and said, have you ever heard of Xavier? And I hadn't heard of them.
Uh-huh.
I filled out that application late admission. They gave me a full scholarship and full room and board. And I'm telling you, the best decision I ever made in my life. So thank you, Mom from heaven, because Xavier was where I was supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how I ended up at Xavier. But my mom was like, you're going to school right here at home. You're not going away.
What gave you that fighting spirit? Because I know, like, if my mother would have told me that back then at that age, and even later on in life, like, I never really fought her on what she kind of told me to do. I think a lot of us grew up in that era where, like, what mama said and daddy said is kind of, it went. What gave you that fighting spirit? Where does that fighting spirit come from to be able to buck the system, even with a parent?
But believe it or not, my mom gave me that fighting spirit. Right. And so my mom was not college educated. She and my dad both, which is interesting because my grandmother, my dad's mom, went to Grambling. She was an educator and she went to Grambling. And so what happened was I felt like, because growing up, I went to a majority school, right? I was in gifted and talented. And I was always like that Black, right?
Oh.
Like people would be like, what's the Black experience? Or can you tell me what Black people are thinking? And I just felt like they made me feel like a unicorn, and I knew that wasn't true, right? And so I wanted to be surrounded by Black greatness. And I felt like that was going to make all the difference in my life, because there was a level of inferiority that I sometimes felt like, Black people weren't smart or Black people aren't educated. And I just saw probably school days that messed me up. And I was like, I want that. That's what I want. That's what I want for college.
Right.
And
probably the Cosby Show and a different world.
Absolutely right. Oh, exactly. In a different world.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I wanted all of that. I wanted the Greek life. I wanted all of that. And I just didn't feel like I could get that at a majority school.
When you walked on the campus of Xavier, what did it feel like that first day?
Well, it's interesting because I had never visited. And now
you just went.
Oh, no. I'm telling you, Manette gave me a flyer for Xavier. And I was lost because I just knew I did not want to go to a big white school, right? Or majority school, I guess that's the better way to say it. So apologize.
No,
Don't cancel
PW,
me.
it's fine.
Okay.
Ain't nobody gonna cancel you. This is a Black show. It's fine. We speak our language.
Right. Well,
thank you to all of our corporate sponsors.
Right. But I got there and I was like, oh crap, this place is not as big as it's like a little bit bigger than my high school. This don't look like FAMU. It don't look like Howard. It don't look like Spelman. The AUC, because I had visited the AUC.
Okay.
So it was shocking to me because it was small, but again, it had this pedigree of greatness, right? And then there was nuns. So it's like, oh crap, we have curfew. It was just a little different from what I expected. But now Xavier is a metropolis. It's amazing. And it's all about, and that's why giving back is so important. It's all about endowments. So when alumni don't give back, Howard and FAMU have huge endowments. That's why those campuses look so spectacular. And that built environment for some kids is really important. For me, it wasn't. I just knew I knew I could live in my mama's basement. I knew that wasn't going to be my journey, right? And my mama wasn't going to even allow that to happen for me, right? That was not welcome. I had to make my own way.
Yeah.
So I knew this was going to be where I had to make it. But it was so small, right? There was like 2 dorms at the time.
Oh my.
And literally like it was 2 or 3 built. Like, I'm saying it was small. It was small. So, but it was doing amazing things. And they had a pharmacy school. It was amazing for it to be such a small campus.
Yeah, and you already knew prior to that you already knew you wanted to be a doctor. When did you know that being in pre-med was going to be something that you wanted to do? How young were you?
So my mom was chronically ill, and so was my dad. My mom had breast cancer in her 20s. And so she had initially a lumpectomy with radiation. And so for anyone who's gone through radiation, you go in every single day for a while. And so that summer, and my dad actually had Crohn's disease, but my dad was on drugs. And so for the most part, even though my mom and my dad were, married still, my dad would be gone. Like he would go on what we call them binges. So he would sometimes be there and then he would sometimes be gone for weeks. And you just never knew when he was going to show up. So when my mom was going in for her radiation treatments, me and my sister, my brother are literally in the waiting room, sitting there, swinging our legs, sitting there quietly, doing crossword puzzles, waiting for my mom to come out and then take us home or do whatever, And I really got comfortable in this space where, it's medical facility or in around doctors. Because she at that time had like an oncologist, a radiation oncologist, and her primary care physician and her surgeon. And I just remember how she looked at them and how they were empathetic. And, I just felt like this is the life and this is what I want to do for people. So it just called me.
It was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer at that point. Yeah.
So you went to Xavier and then you went to St. Louis University School of Medicine. So you came, Kansas City. Yeah, you went back home.
So basically, and again, remember my mom didn't play.
She did not.
So I was supposed to initially go to KU for medical school. And KU is actually in Kansas City, right? And so my mom was like, oh, good, you're coming home. And so you can take your little brother to basketball practice and you make sure, in church, you got to probably go ahead and come on back to the usher board. And I was like, yeah, that's a little too close for home.
Right.
And so I was waitlisted at SLU and I called them and I said, is it possible that y'all can move me to the accepted list? And literally 2 days later, I got accepted. But that was my dream school. And so that's another kind of little nugget in there. Never give up on your dream. Even if you think you have to you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get in. If I hadn't called them and asked them, then they maybe would have chosen someone else. But I'd never took them off of my memory.
Yeah.
And so I kept kind of bugging them. And they said, okay, come on, I'll give you a chance.
And that spirit of not giving up and pushing for everything you want came from your mother.
Absolutely. My mom had my sister when she was 15 and she had me when she was 18. And she was stern. She was disciplined. She was very traditional and she was so intentional. Like I remember her making us read the encyclopedia. I remember her actually sometimes making us watch, which is funny, 2020. And she would make us watch this because she knew as a young mom, right, that we were going to be kind of having, and she was a single mom. Yeah. So there was going to be moments of autonomy. And my mama worked nights. So we were home most of the time by ourselves. There was a lot of alone time. And so she wanted me to kind of peep game and be hip to like, not just having book sense, but common sense. Like, okay, so this person just got murdered. What happened there?
Right.
Like, oh.
And would ask you the question.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, so don't get in a car with ding, ding, ding. Okay. So she would teach me kind of these situations that maybe would come up in her absence. And so I would be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
And know how to like understand predators and how predators think and how to not be a victim.
So after all of this, you decide to join the Navy.
Yes.
I mean, Contessa, what was it in your spirit that said, you know what? Navy.
Again, it's all about the people who you look at who kind of mentor you or even from afar because they're living that life of greatness. And so the most successful person in our family was my uncle, my mom's oldest brother. He was a JAG in the Navy. And so the Navy paid for his law school. And so I said, oh, okay. Because again, I don't have any money. So how do you do that? How do you pay $200,000 for school?
Yeah.
Right. And that was the path for me. So that's how I ended up going to the Navy. They actually paid for my medical school.
That is awesome.
Yes.
So you did flight, like you were a flight
I was a flight surgeon. Yeah. So as a part, which is amazing, as a doctor, they pay actually to, for you to travel and to train you to do other things. And so a flight surgeon is a primary care physician for pilots and aircrew. And so as a part of that journey, they wanted us to understand the rigors of being a pilot and in the flight environment. And so they actually send you to flight school. And I mean, like literally flight school, where you learn how to fly, you go to the classroom work, you learn about weather, you learn all that stuff. And we were right there with, in the room, same training as the pilots.
Let me tell you something. I was today years old when I found out that you actually took care of the pilots and not actually having surgery in flight.
Yeah, for sure. And it's still a thing. So when you sometimes will see a patient being transferred somewhere from one place to another, that still is like a flight surgeon. And so there are flight surgeons who still work for airlines and of course, medical transport and things of that nature.
Okay.
So there is the possibility to continue to do that kind of work. But because again, that is its own special thing. And that's the fastest way to transport a patient is in the air.
Right. So when did you meet your husband? Did you meet him
I met him at the Black Medical Association conference for students. It's called Student National Medical Association.
So y'all were young bucks.
We were. Well, he was finishing medical school and I was just starting. I like to say he's much, much, much older.
He ain't no much.
So he, and we were in Miami. And so.
Why you got to look like that?
We were in Miami. And we were in Miami. And so we were in actually an elevator. And so he and his brother and his nephew, because Scott's the oldest of 10 kids.
Oh, wow.
And so his nephew was, his siblings are older than my parents. His mother was older than my grandmother. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. So he has siblings and nephews and nieces who are older than me. And so his nephew was like flirting with me, which is funny. So yeah, so we actually, he brought his brother and his nephew to the medical conference so they can of course meet girls. And so yeah.
And smart women
exactly,
at that.
Right. So me and my girls were in the elevator and he walked in and they were like, hey, we were like, hey,
Right.
So, and we just actually stayed friends. So we met that night and then we just kind of kept in touch. And we were literally friends for like several years. And then one time we went to Carabana. And we, saw each other at Carabana and it was just different. And after that, we were together ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm, fast forward because, we got to get to the stuff.
Yeah.
How did you even get the invitation to be a part of Married to Medicine? How did they find you? Obviously, there's always like the stipulations, beautiful, married to a handsome man, children, a nice home, and you kind of fit those things.
Sure.
So let's talk about the initial, hey, we're calling from Bravo and we wanted to know if you're interested in.
And you know when that happened? Because that's exactly how it happened.
I know it did, because I've gotten several calls.
You
just
gotten
haven't
several.
made it.
Right. No. And it's disarming to you because you're just like, is this a prank? Like,
Right,
whatever,
right.
So actually, before I came on the show, I actually was called before. So Toya actually used to go to my church.
Okay.
And so I knew her peripherally. And then Simone, we have a really good mutual friend.
Okay.
And so when I got that call, it was like, nah, it sounds crazy. But I do know some people who would be great. And so that first cycle actually of interviewing and things of that nature, I even recommended 4 or 5 different people. And one of the people that I recommended, they actually chose.
Oh, wow.
And so she was on for a year. And then the next year they came back again. And I was just like, this time I was like, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Because when I heard about the show, I just heard it was the show that people were fighting on. And I was like, hey,
me.
I'm not that. That's not, even though it seems like it after you watch the show, you're like, damn, she
Right,
kind of
what
like,
happened to her?
she, gangster, but
We'll get into that in a
real
minute.
life, I'm not.
Right.
I was homecoming queen in high school and college.
Me
Like, what are we
too.
talking about? Like, but I guess we all, even though I'm a little Pollyanna, I have those tendencies. This ain't what you want. Like, so I'm
Right.
still from Kansas City. And again, I just told you, how my daddy is, and my
Right.
family is. So it's in there. My mama had me young. So again, we've been watching 2020. So I know how to play. So I stay ready. Like, I'm always thinking there's a predator around.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the thing. So so that was how it happened. And when they called that first time, it really was, I think the mistake in my head was to think that I'm a one-trick pony and you can't be like on a TV show and cussing and drinking and having fun and showing who you really are, and also still be a professional, which is stupid because our professional life is our work.
Yeah, that's work.
And we work to sustain our personal life, not the opposite, right?
Yes.
And so it's almost like a fallacy when people think that I have to live my life like about this professional, so I'm so glad that's gone away. People can wear their hair how they want to. People can drink, cuss, fuss, whatever. They can wear swimming suits, all that foolishness that we used to believe. And I think, honestly, reality television helped for that to start it. But social media, especially like the TikTok and the pandemics and all that stuff, every doctor that you've ever heard of before is now all over the internet, barely, cussing, drinking, fussing, singing rap songs, dancing, twerking, and barely dressed. So I love that. Thank y'all for helping us out.
Yeah,
it's the norm.
You're able to be as real as you are,
absolutely,
as a human being. One of the things that was very disheartening to me when you and Scott were going through so much, and having to show that on television, how did that almost end your marriage? Just that time, and how would you say television play a role in that?
Television saved our marriage.
Really?
Hardcore. Oh my God. Yes.
Okay.
So going back to, again, how we met and so Scott and I were long distance our entire marriage until we even got married and then a year later is when we actually moved into our courtship. We were long distance our entire courtship and we were married for an entire year before we lived in the same city. And so I would say, unfortunately, we didn't really get a chance to know each other until we moved in together. And so we had all these terrible habits and our ways of even dealing and talking and being together, right? And then after that, we were already married. So it's different when you're dating somebody and you're just like, we having problems. But we were past the annulment stage when we moved in together and as a married couple. So we just almost felt like we're stuck together. And it got to be to a point where I would say, and if anyone is listening, if you're in a relationship where you don't talk, where y'all are giving not the arguments are passion, the communication, it can be, positive, negative, but at least y'all still talking. But it got to a point where I was just like both of us were like, if you don't have to say any words to me, don't say any words to me. And we were done. We were absolutely done, but we never talked about the why. And reality television makes you talk about, like, you can't not talk about it. Like, you have to deal with it. And so there was moments, and because if you watch some of it, he will walk away. Yeah. And he never even saw that as being something that was troublesome, right? I always felt like it was just the way that we communicated. And that was just our way, and it didn't work for me anymore. And the show made it to where we had to listen to the possibility that maybe we can resolve that. We can change our communication styles. And I didn't even know what I was doing to like maybe piss him off, right? He would feel like sometimes I'm emasculating him by the way I'm talking to him. And again, my mom and my dad ended up getting divorced, right? And honestly, that's how I grew up. I grew up in a home where this is the way we fought, right? And he grew up again in a divorce home. His father passed away when he was 5 and he had a stepfather. And so we had all these pathological ways of dealing with one another that we just thought was normal because it was our normal.
Right. So you had to create your own normal.
We had to get
your
therapy.
Life was going. Yeah.
We did but I felt like it was just hopeless. Like this is just how it is. It's just not going to work out. We just got to move on. And I think because of television, it honestly, there was a lot that we couldn't even, because it was playing out on television, it was challenging because we couldn't really talk about all of it because it was happening on television. We couldn't talk about it. But I was getting therapy and he was getting therapy. And so by the time that you even saw Like, for instance, a reunion, I even was saying to the therapist, and he was saying, we can still work this out. I was saying, nothing's changed, we're done. And so when we got to reunion, I really was just like, I don't have any feelings anymore about like, it was a mourning situation. Like I was going through the stages of grief. Like I was like acceptance, like we're just not going to change.
Work.
Nothing's going to change. And I think he always felt like this is just going to be the way it is. And he never wanted to be like our kids to have a broken home.
So what was the turning point?
He never wanted our kids to have a broken home. I grew up in a home where people got divorced and the women were strong and single parenthood was like normal. I mean, I'm a doctor, you're a doctor. Why can't we
be good?
We're going to be good.
Right.
Right. But he didn't think that was going to be okay. And I actually commend him tremendously for really putting that to be something that is important, because I was kind of selfish in the sense of saying the kids will be all right, and when people get divorced, the kids will be all right. But my son, believe it or not, my son was the one who was going through it. Oh, he was like, I can't even believe it. Like, I can't believe you guys are going to break up this family. And I hadn't tried. Like, I was just seriously like, this is not going to get any better. And then when he said that, my son said that, I said, let me go through therapy and actually have an open mind and an open heart to maybe see that we can change some things. But it's not, when people break up, it's not just one person.
Yeah.
It was both of us. It was the way that we communicated and the way we fought. And there were no boundaries. And it wasn't that we were calling names and things like that. Sometimes it's a little bit more vicious, right? So my love language, I'm a big producer, right? I like to have products. Like I like to do things, get a degree, work hard, have a business, invest, make a profit. And so for him, he would say things to me that he knew was going to hurt me. So it ain't calling me stupid, ugly, dumb names. It's saying like I didn't produce, because that's what he knew that would hurt me. And for him, he's more of a nurturer. He is a family man. He is a good person. In our wedding, he had 13 groomsmen. 13. That's how many men stood up for him. And so for me, I was saying that he is not like nurturing and he's not kind and he doesn't look out for me. He ain't got my back. He's not a protector. And those are the things I knew would hurt him.
Wow.
And so we did that. And so it would be just things that would kind of like destroy the fundamental core of who we were as individually.
Right.
And that would be tough because it's like, you don't even know me. If you're saying that about me, and we had to learn how to stop doing that. This moment.
And I can tell you still get emotional about it.
Yeah. But I thought it was fair. I'm mad. I can say whatever, you said something to hurt my feelings. I get to hurt your feelings right back. And it got to be such a toxic environment. It was like, you don't even get to use words to me. Don't talk to me. Unless it has something to do with the kids, don't talk to me.
Wow.
And we were there.
And so television, which much like it did for me, I was able to see myself. And I got therapy because of television. I was able to talk to my mother like I've never talked to her before because of television. Because you actually get to see yourself in a completely different way. So for you to say it actually saved your marriage, and me as a viewer thinking, oh my God, it's destroying their marriage, it actually saved yours.
It highlighted it because it wasn't, and I'll just be honest about all of reality television. They choose what they show. Yeah. And so I didn't even know that they were going to show some of this stuff because it wasn't like we hadn't had arguments and issues in the past, but they had never showed it, But when they show people stuff, it's just apparently their turn. But everybody goes through it. Even the people who say, oh, everything is wonderful and perfect. You would be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Oh, honey, I know.
Oh, you know.
Oh,
okay.
absolutely. I've been married for 20 years.
So we all have
we on
ups and
Instagram
downs.
like this.
Right. Because nobody...
I don't like this. I'm just playing.
It's tough. It's tough. It is. And that's why, honestly, when people will see like, the couples that we really hold to a high regard, who get divorced. It's like, we love each other, but we're going to go our separate ways. You're like, where'd that come from? I love them as a couple. Because it was the same thing.
Yeah. And you're not in their house. You're not in a situation.
Right.
People don't understand that. And I always say this. On our 20th anniversary, I wrote on Instagram, I was like, your recipe for your marriage is uniquely yours. What works for another couple is not the same recipe that works for yours. So that's the thing about, and then you go to these people, these counselors, this is what you need to do. What's working for you?
Right. Everybody's situation
is different.
Yes.
Everybody's is different. Got a couple more things before we wrap up.
Yeah.
the competition. Both
Yes.
of you and I did fitness competitions.
Well, you did it. I participated, but you did it. You did it. Like
No,
you
we both did it. First of all, we made a commitment that a lot of people will never do. And we
That's
are
true.
definitely in the minority when it comes to that. We're in like the 0.05% that
Yes,
both of
we
us
are.
did competitions and we both look fabulous.
Yes, you do.
What was your decision to do that? I know what mine was. What was yours?
So I had been saying I was going to do one for a very long time.
Me too.
But last year in particular was tough. And I feel like there was a physical manifestation of my mental state, right? And so my body like was unrecognizable to me when I would look in the mirror. And I needed something to reset. And honestly, when people talk about getting into shape and fitness and health, it's a mental. It's all mental.
The body follows the mind.
Right.
I say it all the time. The body follows the mind. My producer, Nicole, made up her mind. I'm going to change it.
That's
and
right.
she did. She recently lost 15 pounds. She looks amazing. She just went out of town. Everybody was like, oh, Nicole, you look so good. She was like, I know. But she made up her mind.
It was my mind. Yeah.
And that's what happens.
I needed to train and recondition my mind.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It was almost like I had believed for a long time that I'm, I always say tears of a clown, right? I was that supportive friend. Like you come to me when you have problems. I don't tell people. And that whole like thing, if people are like, oh, Contessa came to me for advice, lies. I believe exactly what you said. I believe too, you can never, my mom and my dad got together when they was 18 years old, 17 years old.
Yeah.
How can someone who got together with their spouse at 40 give them advice? It's crazy. Or someone who, that's everybody's situation. And they had kids. He adopted my big sister, right? So everyone's situation is different. So even asking people for advice to me is a little foolish because you have to listen to the Holy Spirit. Because usually the voice is the loudest in your brain is you already know what to do. You just got to listen to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to that, when I was going through everything I was going through, I needed to not focus on the external because I did not know if Scott and I were going to survive. I just knew that I needed to be around for a very long time. Life expectancy is shorter for not only us, our generation, but our children because of our health. And I needed to be strong. I needed to be ready for the fight of being a single parent. And I actually was just getting, and even the fight of no matter how me and Scott were like, we're going to have either a happy marriage or a happy divorce, that fight of a divorce, oh my God, I've seen it. I just needed to be ready. I needed to be mentally strong and centered. And the only way I could see doing that was to really focus on something bigger than myself. And so that's how I got, because I knew that was going to take a lot of focus on this. Like I had to focus on that and I couldn't think about nothing else.
Wow.
And it was great. It was perfect timing because the byproduct of that was a lot of things that was going wrong in my personal life and my professional life. Those all fell not only in alignment, but into perfection, like perfect step.
Yep.
It was great.
Absolutely. It's transferable skills. When you do those types of competition, you do those types of things where you change your life. It's not just for your physical health. Like it transfers into your entire life. From doing that, I started like, you know what? I need to make sure my show is seen now and not just heard. I did this and all these other things that I just started to manifest in my life. And I really credit that because of the training for the competition.
That discipline.
That discipline it's something that it's hard to get back to.
It is. It almost becomes your mind, like it becomes who you are now.
Yeah.
Right? I had to also prove to myself of what I was capable of. Right? I knew I was strong, but I wanted to see if I do this, because I could, get a degree in my sleep. But what about, can I transform my body?
Yep.
Can I physically look at myself and say, I did that?
Right.
With God's help, not by myself, but and Abdul, but I was able to actually make those choices.
Yeah. And look amazing as a mother of 3, a wife, a professional in your 40s. And we look, I'm including myself. We look like this. Honey, let me come here, 22-year-old girl.
What's
happening?
Right.
What you got? Long lashes.
Exactly right. I don't even need all that. I don't need all that.
I don't need it.
I can wear some tinted moisturizer.
Yes, I sure do. Laura Mercier every day.
Every day. Sorry. Okay, look. All right.
All right. Okay, so in the fall of 1995, you became a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Did DST choose you or did you choose DST?
Okay, so truth be told, I chose DST. So a lot of my friends from high school will remind me that I was an AK debutante in high school.
I mean, a minute you were. I love it.
I literally love AKs.
Right.
I love them. They gave me a scholarship and I literally love it. When I got to college though, it was like when I got to college, I knew I was going to be an AK when I got to college.
Right.
But I didn't know anything about Delta. I just didn't know about it. And so my best friend, my roommate at the time, she was pledging Delta. And my other friends were like interested in Delta. So I was like the only one in my group that was like, I'm gonna be AK. They were like, do you know anything about Delta? And I actually read the book, In Search of Sisterhood. I read it. I was like, I love this story. And if I maybe had stayed at home, I don't know. I think I probably would have just fell in line and done what I was supposed to do, so to speak. Because that's what I was told when I came home. Like, you know what you're supposed to do. Right. But I love my AK, my Janine Pettiford. She's here, my breast surgeon.
Oh, I love
we were
her.
debutantes together.
Chapter, yes.
There we go. Yes, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So she was like, what did you do when you went to, because she went to Howard. So she was, we all came home for Christmas.
Right.
And we had pledged. And she was like, what
happened?
What did you do? Like, she felt like I slapped her in the face. But it was the best decision for me.
Yeah.
You know?
And you got to do what makes your heart feel good.
It just, and it's also, you do have, it's about who is there at the time and who you're with. Yeah. And that's who I identified with the best.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. That's fantastic. If you had to hang with anybody in your cast, like in real life. Who would you hang out with?
You know what's interesting? For different reasons, I would actually hang out with everybody. Even the ones I'm not talking to right now.
Who you ain't talking to?
Well, you know, I'm not, me and Heavenly don't fuck with each other. I mean, can we say bad words?
Yeah, you can. It's okay. It's a free show. It's
okay,
fine.
sorry.
I know, that is that. I don't like you guys. You know, this is why I never was able to do reality. I have gotten interviewed for Housewives of Atlanta 4 times. 4.
You should be on the show.
I should not. I am not a person that can argue. I will get red every time.
I do not believe that. I do not believe that.
They'll be like, I do not believe that. I'll be like, oh, you won, sis. No worries. I'll be like that.
I don't believe that.
I can't do it.
I believe you in your shower tearing them up.
No, the producers, every time. I'm like, I really don't like dissension. I really like happiness. That's why I never made it. I never made it.
But you know what it is? They know. So this is what people do. And this is the true, honest truth about this whole environment. They put a bunch of alphas in the same, not even like room, in the same cup. I mean, it's nowhere to go, right? You are in this little microcosm. And alphas, if you give us long enough, we are going to have something that we don't agree about. Right. And because we're alphas, we're not going to back down. Right. And so you just got to find the right thing that someone doesn't agree about, and they going to go to battle for it.
I mean, I guess I could do that if you put me in the right situation.
If someone talked about they discredited they discredited AKs. Right. They discredited families and marriage and your children, or they discredited the fact that HBCUs are as good as majority schools. You will argue them down. There's no way you'd be like, oh my God. No, you would not. So it's all about, but other stuff like, labels matter. I don't care. Whatever. Right. I don't care about that. Get your makeup done every 2 minutes. Yeah, okay, whatever. Make sure your nails always done. Certain things you don't care about, but the other things that you do, you're never going to back down. Right. And that's what happens. They know exactly who to choose. Right. And they know what the thing is that you're going to stand up for.
Do you ever look back at any scenes like, oh,
all of them. I look back at BravoCon. I'm like, oh my God, did I say that and do that? And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I don't really, when, someone's like, I stay off of Twitter. I don't be on Twitter. Me neither. I don't want to read your comments. I don't argue with folks. I don't actually even watch those little clips and stuff about the show because in the moment, I'm a Gemini. So in the moment, I meant that shit. Oh my God. Right. But I get it out. It's like when I go to sleep, I wake up the next morning like, let's be friends. I'm cool. Right. Like we argued about it. We finished it, but I'm not a big grudge holder.
You're the other Gemini. I'm the other side. Yeah. That day.
Yeah. Right. But I don't want to I don't stay mad. Like I don't hold grudges really. Like I don't have the energy and space in my heart to do that. I got it out. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And then we can move on. But I don't hate you because we disagreed about something. But sometimes I think people like to just pick at you and to fight. And I'm not on a regular basis just a fighter. Like I'm more of the fun girl. I'm the fun time. Yeah. That sounds very different than I meant for it to come out though.
Okay. I mean, not like that.
I've only had a few sexual partners, so I don't want y'all to think that. Well, so I'm not that fun girl. Don't be looking me up on them VHS porns and see if finding some old tapes.
You're good. You're a nice, wholesome doctor now.
I am.
Totally fine. Mother, wife, all the things.
I ain't gonna tell you about it. No.
Dr. Contessa, thank you so much for being here today.
Cool Soror.
Cool Soror, yes.
Yes.
she is my Cool Soror. Cheers. Oh, that's right. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for being here. Dr. Contessa Metcalfe. Make sure you check her out on Married to Medicine and all of her different businesses. You know, she's doing great things.
See me, Chastain Integrative Medicine.
Right. Yes. And stay sexy with Scott. Y'all look so sexy. See, I can tell y'all in a real good space. Y'all be making love a lot. I know it. I can tell. I can tell when you're in that space.
Ass.
Me and my husband, we right there right now too. Just last night.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun though. And it's good for your mental health.
It is good for your mental health and your physical health.
That's correct.
I love it. It's the Cool Soror Podcast with yours truly, Rashan Ali and Dr. Contessa Metcalfe.